Hey guys, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here, and today I've got my dog Bella with me, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about this awesome collar from a company called Spot On that I picked up a few months ago, and I've been kind of playing with it, testing it, and it's pretty awesome. It's got a ton of cool features, so I'm going to kind of walk you through the collar. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it works. I'm going to show you the app, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with it so far. But it is a great collar for your dog for both tracking, but also containment. And if you have multiple places, multiple properties where you take your dog, or even like regular campsites and things like that, you can basically set up virtual fences all over the place. So again, I'm going to walk you through all the features. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. I'm going to show you what this collar does and why it's so cool. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. So if you want to learn more about the Spot On collar for dogs, stay tuned.
Understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, guys, so Bella is out of the shot. She has left the vicinity, but she's running around right now with her collar on, using that to kind of keep her contained. Again, I've had this thing for probably 3 or 4 months now. I've been using it quite a bit. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about this collar and kind of tell you why I picked it up and why I think this is a good option, especially if you are into camping, if you've got kind of regular spots that you go to, or if you've got multiple properties. And then if you're looking for something like this, or even if you're just not into camping or overlanding or don't have multiple properties and you just want a non-physical fence-based containment system, this may be a good video for you and hopefully give you the info that you're looking for. So one of the big things that differentiates us from something like an invisible fence brand physical fence where you bury a line in your yard is there are no physical lines for this device. That was what really drew me to the collar. So what I mean by that is you don't have to pay someone to come out and plug something in your garage or in your basement or somewhere, some sort of a control unit that has physical lines actually running electricity through your line. You don't have to bury a line, and then once you bury the line, like your perimeter is set for your dog. This is completely virtual. So basically what this does is you can set up your fence in a couple of ways. You can either walk your perimeter of your yard. Now they do require at least a ½ acre of property. I will say mine is probably just a little bit less than a ½ acre, but what I did was I just stretched out the perimeters a little bit to make it work. And ever since I did that, no problems, it's been great. But so you can either walk the perimeter, and with the app on your phone, you can walk the perimeter and it will sort of trace where you're walking and set that as the perimeter. Or you can essentially draw it on a virtual map. So it's almost like a Google map that you look down on and you can draw where you want your fence to be on your property. So that makes it really easy to tweak and to mess with. So starting out, one of the first experiences that I had with the collar, and if you are having this experience and you found this video as a result of this, I want to kind of answer these questions and tell you what I did to fix it. So at first, when we first put the collar on, the dog would be inside the house and she would start to get alerts. So the binging would go off, basically the noise to tell her that she's outside of the fence or getting too close to the fence would go off in the house. So where she happens to eat is closest to the very edge of our house, which was also closest to the edge of our property line. And so when she would go to eat, she was getting scared for a little bit of eating because she thought she was setting off the collar. But what we figured out again was I just stretched that out a little bit. So keep in mind that there is about a 10-foot buffer between what you set as the perimeter and the sort of sway of the satellites. So the signal coming down from the satellites is not 100% accurate. They do make it as accurate as they possibly can, but there is about a 10-foot gray area around your perimeter where the dog could either get a little bit further out or the alarm may go off a little bit further in. So when we were having that issue, what we did was you could hold the collar in your hand, you can have the app up in another hand, and then when you walk to a place, if it starts to go off, you can change your perimeter and drag your fence out just a few more feet. Once you get it to the point where it's kind of perfect and tweaked, then from there on out, we have not had any problems for the last couple months. It's been really great. So, in my case, I live in a suburban neighborhood, so it's house and then it's a decent sized backyard and a decent sized front yard, but on the sides is where it's really narrow. So what I did was I basically drug that perimeter out about 8, 9, 10 feet. So it's just right at that border because we really don't want her transferring from the backyard to the front yard because then we don't know where she is. We let her out back and we go out here and she's gone, then it looks like she's gone and that freaks us out a little bit. So we keep it a little bit tighter on the sides of the house, but we just had to sort of, through trial and error, tweak it so that it wouldn't go off when she's in the house, but then it would go off if she tried to go down the side of the house. So again, be a little bit patient with it, do some trial and error. If you start to see your dog kind of freak out a little bit around a certain area, take that collar, take the app, go over there and just tweak that perimeter just a little bit. But again, once you do it, once you get it set up once, the app remembers everything forever, basically. So a benefit of the app-based, GPS-based system is that you can have multiple fences. So if you go to a spot regularly in a national forest, you can essentially train your dog to occupy a certain space in that campsite and then use the collar to both track them if they were to get out, but also to contain them in that space. Now, the way that I would recommend doing that, and I'll put a link in the description down below, they're super cheap, is to buy some flags. So basically, that was how we trained our dog on the original invisible fence, was just to simply have her see these flags. And honestly, because the alarm would go off, it would beep at her. When she would get close to them, she started to recognize that those flags were essentially a danger marker, right? So she learns from the flags. So now we take these flags out when we go to a campsite, maybe once, twice, 3 times, she gets it. You put those flags out, she remembers that perimeter. So at the sort of regular campsites, again, if you go to a certain place or a couple of places, you can set up multiple fences. You could call it hilltop campsite, you could call it field campsite, you could call it whatever you want, and you could have these multiple fences. The collar is also really smart. So like when you go outside of those areas, it will track the dog. So again, if the dog were to chase after an animal or something, get out of the fence, you can use the app to actually track the dog's location. So that's another thing that I really like. It also sends you notifications when they get out of your fences. So again, once you set up your perimeter or perimeters, if the dog were to get out, boom, you get a text notification, you get a pop-up notification. You can set other people to get notifications. So I get them, my wife gets them, our kids even get them, so that if we weren't home or something and the dog were to get out, the kids would know right away that the dog got out of the fence, and then they could track her with the app. You can also add multiple users to your fences. So like I set up all the fences, I control it in my app, but then I invited my wife, I invited my mom, because another thing that we did with this was we set up a different perimeter down at my mom's house. That was one of the big deciding factors for me, is I'm like, okay, great, we have this physical invisible fence up here, but when she goes to my mom's house, when we go on trips and stuff, my mom will babysit the dog. When she goes down there, all of a sudden she's being staked out, and she hates that, and she can only go so far, and she's yanking herself on the chain all the time. My mom has to go out in the dark in the middle of the night and let the dog out and attach her to this thing, and you know, if she misses it and the dog runs off, like, she has no tracking for it. So again, to have multiple fences is extremely powerful and extremely valuable for someone like me that has someone who dog sits, my house, multiple campsites that I go to and things like that. So I'm going to show you on the app here while I talk about it, but the app is really awesome. First, it's super user friendly. Second, it will tell you how many satellites your dog is connected to, your dog's collar, and they connect to up to about 25 plus satellites at any given time, and it will show you that signal strength in the app when you're looking at it. So you know if maybe there's like partial cover of trees, or when they're in the house, the signal may go down a little bit, but you can see right in the app how much signal there is. You can see your dog's collar's battery, so you know how that's doing, and it's really easy to recharge. It comes with this nice little charger that you just slide it down into, so basically it lasts for about a day. So it takes about an hour to charge the collar from 0 to full, and then it lasts for about 25 hours. Again, we use it for about 16 to 18 hours a day, so it actually works out really perfect for us. She wears it from the time she wakes up until the time she goes to bed. We take it off, she rolls around on the ground a little bit, scratches her neck, and then goes to bed. Now, it does look a little large on my dog. My dog's about a 22-pound small lab bulldog whippet chihuahua mix, so it's a very interesting mix. So she just looks like a baby lab all the time. So the collar is a little bit larger than like the old school invisible fence one that we had, but again, it's all contained in one unit. It has its own battery, it has GPS, so for the function of the collar, the bigger size doesn't bother me at all. And again, once she gets used to it, it's super comfortable and nice. The old collar, we did have the prongs in, so it would shock her. With the new one though, we've just gone with the sound. So she's very, again, attuned to the beeping of the thing, and it does scare her back. Since we've had this thing over the last few months, she has not been out. Another part of why we picked this thing up was that on the electric fence before, she would get out of the fence and then she would recognize that she's out of the fence, and she was too scared to come back in because she got shocked. That shock sent her running, and then when she's out, she's like, well, I can't go back now because I don't want to get shocked again, right? So because of that, it actually, when she would get out on the old collar, it would send her into a frenzy and basically send her running down the road, and we had to go chase after her, and we didn't have any GPS tracking. With the new one, if she gets out, again, we get a notification right away, and it doesn't do that. It doesn't have that same effect to her, and then we can track her if she does continue to take off. Another cool thing about the collar is that it has these built-in motion sensors, and they use a combination of AI and GPS to track acceleration, so they can tell how fast your dog is going. They can tell with a high degree of accuracy exactly where your dog is, and they can kind of anticipate when or if he or she is going to get out of the fence and where they're going. That also allows for some flux in the fence itself. So again, versus some GPS systems like older school, Garmin's and things like that could kind of wander, this stays put and your fence is always in the same place because it's constantly adapting for any factors like movement of the dog, that sort of thing. What that basically does is it allows the GPS module in the device to have more accuracy, to kind of drown out a lot of the noise, to block out things like tree cover and things like that, to make sure it has the best possible grasp on the GPS signals coming from their satellites up in space. So it just means a cleaner signal and a better, more accurate fence. Another cool thing is you can set fences inside of fences. So let's say that, like in my backyard, I've got these pine trees back here that you can probably see. If she was digging around those, or there were always birds in them and she was trying to go after them or something like that, if there was a problem spot in your yard that you didn't want them to go into, again, I would use the flags to visually mark it for a while, maybe a week or two, while the dog trains to that. But then you can set up a little fence within a fence so that if she gets close to those trees, it will beep and you can train her to stay away from specific areas. But so again, to kind of put a wrap up on this thing, I've been extremely happy with this collar. I love the fact that it has tracking. So again, right before I got the collar, the dog got out on the physical fence, and I happened to be outside and I looked up and I saw her going down the road. And that was the only reason that she is not probably gone and we never found her again, was that I just happened to be outside. We actually had an AC repairman here at the time, and I was out there by the AC unit with him, and I just see my dog walking down the street away from the house. And I'm like, where are you going? And I had to chase her down. I had to call my wife to get in the car to get ahead of her because she just kept sort of jogging away from me. I couldn't catch up with her. So, that was what kind of shook me up a little bit. And I'm like, you know what, if I had not been outside, if I'd been inside working, I would have never known that she was out and she would have been gone. So again, having this collar, getting the notifications is huge. Being able to track the dog means a ton too. Makes it way easier to sort of keep track of your dog. The fact that you have multiple fences that you can set up, and even fences within fences, is a really cool feature. The fact that you've got this app and you can always sort of see, is she inside the house? Is she outside the house? Is she near the fence? Did she leave the fence? The updates are really awesome. The intuitiveness of it is awesome. Their support staff has been really awesome. I kind of initially, when I first got it, I did like a training with one of their reps to sort of learn about the app and figure it all out, and he was amazing. So like, their team just seems really on it. They love dogs. They built something because it solves a lot of problems for dog owners. So if you're looking for a device that's really going to make your dog's life better and make your life easier to be able to know where your dog is and to be able to contain your dog with less worry of them getting out or possibly being lost, the Spot On collar makes a ton of sense. So I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, click that like button. If you have any questions, of course, post up in the comments down below. If you're into camping, overlanding, that sort of thing, if you're into going out and exploring with your dog or without your dog, this may be a good channel for you. I've got a ton of content about that stuff, so make sure to click that subscribe button. Also in the description down below will be links to all my other social channels. There's also a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding and camping themed patches and stickers. So if you're into any of that sort of stuff, check that out. Also below this video is a join button. That is just a sort of passive way to support the channel, and it also gets you early access to the videos. So if you want to see stuff before anyone else, that's a good option. Then there's a link to my Patreon page where we've got a ton of awesome members. We talk about camping, we talk about our vehicles, we talk about trips and stuff like that. So if that sounds fun, check that out. And then last but not least, if you're newer to overlanding and you want to learn more about what overlanding is or get into dispersed camping and getting out and exploring, there's a group on Facebook that I run called Newbie Overlanders, totally free to join, so check that out as well. But again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.